Okay, and actually, with that, it is 4:03, and we start on time here at the Battelle team. So I'm going to go ahead and just do a quick technology note before we get started into our content. I highlighted that one button that's going to be important. Thank you, Nancy. You found the chat function just fine. Chat function there is going to be your way to ask questions. If you can't see our presenters, they have all gone through the headache of getting a webcam working and in the right location at the right time. So if you want to see their smiling faces, that's at participants. And there's also a way to expand the screen a little bit if you need it. And before we get into our regular content, I actually believe, I need to do my standard warning that this will be recorded, posted to YouTube and the STEMX website as an archive. So don't say anything you wouldn't want your kids to play back in a couple of years. And other than that, I think I have to turn it over to Mr. Hall for a second.
Hi, I'm going to back this out. This is Regina Schofield, and thank you all for participating. I would like to introduce my colleague, Wes Hall. Wes joins us from the Tennessee STEM Innovation Network. Last week, he was appointed the STEMX director. I've been sitting in that role since early September, and as much fun as the job is, I'm really happy to be turning it over to Wes. He has a policy background, which really came in handy. The work that we started doing in Tennessee was a collaboration between Battelle's former CEO and Governor Phil Bredesen, and Wes came in and has hired a team, and they've done really great outreach work in the state. They're a very strong partner with the State Department of Education. We came in and fulfilled the terms of an early contract starting platform and STEM hub schools all around the state. His staff has done some amazing work, and they're moving on into rural outreach. And I'm very, very excited that he's joining us today. And so I'll let him do an intro, and then I'll introduce our two speakers for today. Wes.
Absolutely. Hi, guys. Thanks so much, Regina and Rob, for your help with today's webinar for STEMX. Regina took some of the talking points right out of my mouth, but I will pick up right where she left off. I'm really excited to be the new director for STEMX. I've been with Battelle since 2012, so I have been running the Tennessee STEM Innovation Network for about 6 years with our partners here in the state. As a state in Tennessee, we focus really heavily on STEM for all, so I'm very passionate about making sure that regardless of zip code, students have access to quality STEM learning opportunities across our state. And from that position, I'm going to launch that into STEMX as well and make that across our country through partnerships with each of you. I'm really passionate about the work that STEMX has done and is doing. As we launched our network here in Tennessee, I leaned in very heavily on STEMX contacts and relationships. I visited schools in North Carolina and Ohio. We tried to replicate and model the work that Ohio was doing, worked very closely with folks up in Washington State on sustainability efforts, which I think the collaborative effort really positioned us in a very quick manner to be successful and sustainable. And so I hope that's the kind of collaboration that as a director I can foster for STEMX. I think when states collaborate, we all win. And I think that's one of the greatest promises that STEMX holds for all of us is collaboration to expedite opportunities for our students. As some of you guys may have seen in communication last week, we're really focused on 3 priorities in the upcoming weeks for STEMX. First of all, we're doing challenge grants on some very tough education issues that need to be solved with some new strategies across 3 of our states. That's New York, West Virginia, and South Carolina. I'm very personally excited about that work. I think it holds great opportunity for us, a way for us to share out some new strategies with our members across the country. And we're going to do that at our annual convening, which we call STEM Exchange, and it's going to be May 8th and 9th in Nashville, Tennessee, in collaboration with the Tennessee STEM Innovation Network's annual conference. So even if you're not a state lead and you're on the webinar today, we invite you to that meeting. Some information on that from STEMX will be forthcoming, but you can also find it on the Tennessee STEM Innovation Network website to register today. And then in addition to that, I'm really most excited to get to know each of you, to get to know the work that's happening across the country, but particularly in our STEMX member states, the ways in which you guys are making a difference for students. And so I look forward to partnering with each of you in advancing STEM for all and getting to know you guys much more personally.
Thank you, Wes. Speaking of STEM for all, I think our panel today is very exciting. We have 2 presenters today. Akua Kouyate-Tate works at Wolf Trap. Center for Performing Arts, which is based here in Northern Virginia, but they have satellite offices all across the country. And Akua, you can clean that language up when you start speaking, because I know satellite's not the best word for it, but I've been at Battelle for 7.5 years. Wolf Trap was one of my first sites. We visited a Head Start school up in Northwest D.C., and they had a performing artist in the classroom working with the teachers and working with those 5-year-olds and building in foundational STEM skills. And they'd done some work that showed that the students, as they continued on in the school through 5th grade, had more foundational skills in math and than kids in the other parts of the classroom, and you could tell in the building, you could tell who they are. Cindy joins us from, she's up in Boston today, thought she was going to get snowed in and did not, so hang on, Cindy, I'm sure there's another snowstorm coming. She hails from Hartford, Connecticut, where she started doing work and really integrating science into English as a second language or for students there, and she really believes in promoting integrated science and language. And so these two topics, to me, really dovetail off Wes's belief that STEM is for all, and mine, and that, you know, a lot of people will say, oh, there's no STEM in arts, or you guys, you know, you get so siloed in the S, T, E, and M, and I believe both of these ladies will demonstrate to you with their strong programming that that can't be further from the truth. So I hope that everyone will take that away from today's conversation, that foundation could be there for every student, and there are very creative ways for that to happen. So with that, Rob, I can turn it back over to you, or we can go straight to Cindy. You tell me what you want to do.
I actually have Akua's slides up next, so let's go to her.
Okay, Rob, thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today on this STEMX webinar. We're really excited to be a part of this. Of course, as you've heard, this focus is on STEM learning with young children. And today I would like to share important information and experiences that demonstrate how the arts are a powerful teaching tool to enable children to be successful in learning science, technology, engineering, and math, or STEM skills. Can we have the next slide, please? In our session today, it is our intent for you to come to an understanding of the Wolf Trap approach of arts integrated learning in early education, and why arts integration is an effective way for children's skills development. We also are going to have you see how arts integration is put to practice in the classroom in instruction, and consider the benefits of arts integrated STEM instruction for children and for teachers. You'll also get a chance to experience with us a small, little sampling of what arts and STEM together look like. You will hear about research validating the effectiveness of arts integration with early STEM education. And finally, we'll learn about Wolf Trap's online resources for teachers to support integrating the arts and STEM instruction in their classrooms. Now, Wolf Trap Institute is a program of the Wolf Trap Foundation for the Performing Arts, a nonprofit organization based just in Vienna, Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C. Wolf Trap's mission is to create excellent, innovative performing arts experiences for the enrichment, education, and enjoyment of diverse audiences and participants. The work of Wolf Trap Institute happens in schools and in classrooms across the nation. So at this time, if you can go to the next, we're going to show us a brief video that gives you an introduction of what Wolf Trap Institute is all about in the classrooms.
Our lives are filled with classrooms. High-quality learning experiences in the first of life develop a strong foundation for children's growth and stage for moments of transformation. So how do we create those experiences? What shapes an effective childhood education program? Research shows that integrating performing arts, music, dance, drama, and into early childhood education is a highly effective way to learn across the arts integrated techniques can increase all kinds of learners.
Thanks. We can have lunch tomorrow, I think. I'll let you know. Yeah.
And develop the foundation for a love of the arts while creating a child's understanding of the natural world comes alive. The flagship education program of Wolf Trap Foundation, a nonprofit organization, produces and presents a full range of performance and education. Greater Washington, D.C. area. Wolf Trap Institute's approach to arts integration is embraced woven programs nationwide. In fact, our network of affiliates and partners supports nearly 100,000 children, caregivers, and educators. What makes our program so effective is how children and teachers through high-quality professional development. By training professional artists in early curriculum. Wolf Trap teaching artists then support the teachers in their classroom, sharing arts-integrated learning strategies. Teaching artists and confidence to provide children with like the moment when acting out characters and helps a child start to understand the perspective of others. In turn, teachers experience transformational moments of their own. Like when they see a student light up as music and dance incorporated into a science lesson. Classroom. Goals for their class. Shows it works. Logic, math. All institute trained teachers confident in their arts integrated learning strategies in future lessons. At Wolf Trap Institute, the joy of learning, empowering teachers with new skills. To prepare children for lifetimes of meaningful moments. Early childhood lives. The arts make a difference in early childhood education.
So I think you can hear me now. Seems to be there was a little bit of a technical issue there, but we have that video available on our site, and we'll make sure, Robert, that you have it too. In the event there are other people who wish to see the video on their own. Now that you've had a glimpse of the arts integration through Wolf Trap, I'd like to give you some background about the work that we do here at Wolf Trap Institute for Early Learning Through the Arts. And in order to do that, I need to explain why we do this work. The goal of Wolf Trap Institute is to support the learning of our youngest children from infancy to kindergarten by giving them rich experiences in the arts, and to prepare early childhood teachers to engage students in active learning utilizing arts-integrated strategies. Let me break that down for you into the three components of what we do. We do early childhood education, teacher professional development, and arts integration. We focus on early childhood because if we can have a positive effect on children's learning in their earliest years, they're set up for future success. Extensive research shows that the development of a child's brain during his or her earliest years of life form the foundation for future learning, behavior, and health. We focus on professional development for teachers because we know that if students are to be successful, teachers must be equipped and prepared with effective tools and training. And we focus on arts integration because the arts are an engaging way for children to learn. The arts can be incredibly powerful in unlocking children's natural curiosity. They inspire creativity, spur imagination, and spark a love of learning. Next slide, please. So what is arts integration? It is the seamless blending of content and skills in another curricular area with the arts. Arts integration learning combines content and skills from the arts, including singing, dancing, role-playing, and storytelling, with core subjects such as language literacy, science, and math. Next slide, please. So I said you were going to get a small experience, and I've asked my colleagues to join me here so that you could be a part of this experience. And as you can see, we're talking about patterns. Patterns happen in math, they also happen in music, and they happen in movement and in dance. So I ask you to follow with us. Join us if you can. There might be some echoes, I'm not sure, but we'll find out how we can do this together. So let's look at what's on the sheet, on the slide right now. And you'll do this with me, and my colleagues will do it as well. We're going to do clap and tap, or clap and tap. Again, that's A, B, A, B. Now stop. Now we're going to get a little more complex, okay? So this time we're going to do clap, tap, clap, clap, tap. Let's do it. Clap, tap, clap, clap, tap. That's A, B, A, A, B, A, B, A, B. Okay, now we have to add a little more difficulty to it. So this is the next level. Are you ready? So we have clap, tap, clap, clap, tap, clap, tap, reach, reach, clap, tap, clap, clap, tap, clap, tap, reach, reach, A, B, A, B, A, B, C, C, A, B, A, B, A, B, C, C. Now, for all of you who work with children and you're educators who work with children, I would ask you to reflect on what are the skills that were demonstrated in that experience. Immediately, you can see that we formed patterns, but we not only formed patterns by looking at them on the slide, we had the chance to embody those patterns because we created it in our own bodies. We created a rhythm pattern so we could hear that pattern. We actually used movement, and we could have used movement in many different ways to create that pattern. We also could have slides or different representation of symbols that we asked the children to create their own patterns so that they could get a creative moment in helping us to understand patterns and have us demonstrate what they create. There's so many ways that can be expressed, and this is something that happens in an early childhood classroom when you have artists working with teachers very intentionally to connect the arts with learning math skills. The very skills children need to succeed, problem solving, creativity, collaboration, are intrinsic in arts-integrated learning. And research shows that it works. We will elaborate on specific research later in the presentation. We know as fact that when teachers engage children in active, multisensory learning through the arts, They are able to adapt their instruction to support various learning modalities. It could be that kinesthetic learner. It could be that person who's auditory learner. The teacher can make those adaptations. It also brings higher level thinking to the learning for the children and addressing 21st century skills development, creativity and innovation, critical thinking, communications, and problem solving. This happens for young children in the early childhood classroom when Wolf Trap comes into the classroom. Wolf Trap Institute provides effective, high-quality professional development for early childhood educators, whereby teaching artists train teachers in the classroom to use performing arts techniques to enhance instructional practice and achieve curricular goals that are set for the children. Next slide, please. Independent research of the Wolf Trap model, research from arts education and early childhood fields, and Wolf Trap's over 35 years of experience indicates that the infusion of arts integration strategies into curriculum content provides powerful teaching tools that enhance all areas of development, including science, technology, engineering, and math, or STEM skills, language and literacy, social and emotional growth, and as I mentioned, the 21st century skills, that critical thinking, problem solving, communications, collaboration, and creativity. Now, earlier I talked about the three major components of our program at Wolf Trap Institute: high-quality early childhood education, impactful professional development for early childhood educators, and effective arts integration strategies. And now let me tell you how we're bringing these components to life. Next slide, please. We have customized a professional development model that pairs educators with professional teaching artists, musicians, dancers, actors, puppeteers, to train through classroom residencies. To prepare teaching artists for classroom residencies, they receive training from Wolf Trap Institute on early childhood development and curriculum. They then learn how to apply performing arts skills and techniques to support the students' learning and to guide early childhood educators to integrate the arts into their instructional practice. In most classrooms, we are serving children with the greatest need. Approximately 80% of the children served by Wolf Trap Institute come from families living in low socioeconomic circumstances where arts-integrated education resources are less available. Over the course of the residency, teachers learn to integrate the arts into daily instructional independently and long after they've completed their residency with a Wolf Trap teaching artist. Next slide, please. Each year, we serve approximately 100,000 children, teachers, and parents across the U.S. We work with social service agencies, Head Start, Early Head Start, public schools, public charter schools, and libraries. And in the U.S., as I said, we target very intentionally communities, economically disadvantaged communities, so that the children in these communities have access to high-quality early childhood arts education programs. Wolf Trap has created a collaborative community of arts organizations with the goal of impacting the early childhood community on a larger scale. Currently, we have 18 Wolf Trap Institute national affiliates. This is what Regina was talking about, throughout the country, replicating the Wolf Trap Institute model of performing arts integration education. National affiliates exist under an autonomous organization. They're usually performing arts organizations who implement the Wolf Trap model. They have their own teaching artists in their communities, and they partner with educational centers and schools in their school districts, just as you saw on the video. And over the past 2 years, Wolf Trap's partnerships at various levels of engagement have occurred nationally in 30 states. Next slide, please. And we've also had the privilege to work internationally, most recently in India and Singapore. Next slide, please. So as I noted previously, Wolf Trap partners with teachers to help them effectively integrate the arts into the curriculum. Teachers are essential in providing a solid foundation of love of learning in their students. And through the Wolf Trap model, teachers are able to see the application of arts integration in their own classrooms and practice using the strategies with the support of the teaching artist. Next slide, please. So now I want to talk about our work integrating science, technology, engineering, and math, or STEM, with the arts in early education. Now, research confirms that young children are able to learn STEM concepts as the brain is very receptive to learning math and logic between the ages of 1 and 4. Research also confirms that early mathematics learning is the single greatest predictor of later learning, not only in math, but also in areas including reading. We've seen through decades of practice and research that the performing arts have a tremendous impact on children's learning. So by ensuring that children's first STEM learning experiences are effective and compelling, the arts can foster children's excitement and cultivate their natural curiosity about STEM. Next slide, please. So you may ask, why are the arts an effective tool in teaching STEM in early childhood? Well, the foundational qualities necessary for 21st century jobs are curiosity, creativity, collaboration, and critical thinking, which are key concepts that can be learned in the performing arts. Employers continually stress that they need employees who are creative, who can think outside of the box, who can persist through problems to find solutions. However, schools feel the pressure also to have students perform on math and literacy assessments. So the question is, how can we tap into children's natural curiosity and build on it while also teaching important curricular topics and skills? With arts integration, it's not an either-or approach. When teachers intentionally utilize the arts to teach subjects like math or science, they fuel students' critical thinking skills and they become invested and excited about learning. Their curiosity flourishes. So in 2005, we were studying an arts integrated program focusing on language and literacy right here in Fairfax County with the public school district here. And the children who participated in this program, indeed, they showed positive results in language and literacy skills development. However, we were pleasantly surprised that they demonstrated higher scores in logic and math, which we were not attempting to predict. We saw this, however, as an opportunity to learn more about the power of arts integration with math instruction specifically. That is when we began to intentionally develop performing arts strategies, arts content and strategies as an approach to teaching math, content, and skills. Next slide, please. In 2010, the U.S. Department of Education awarded Wolf Trap Foundation a 4-year grant. This was a research grant to disseminate our early childhood STEM learning through the arts model program, which was adapted from the Institute's established model for teacher professional development to concentrate specifically on STEM with that focus on math. The study was conducted with Fairfax County Public Schools by the American Institute for Research, AIR, and sought to answer 2 specific questions. What was the impact of Wolf Trap's professional development on teachers' use of performing arts and math teaching strategies? And secondly, to what extent did Wolf Trap students demonstrate better math knowledge as compared to students in the control groups? So let's talk about the results related to the children's skills development first. Next slide, please. We were elated. We were really excited that the results indicated that the Wolf Trap program had a positive impact on the students' math achievement. Students whose teachers participated in the early STEM arts program earned significantly higher scores on a standardized mathematics assessment test. In fact, The first year of impact was equivalent to 1.3 additional months or 26 additional days of learning for the children who were in those classrooms where the teachers participated in the program. We even saw results in the second year with these same children. Even if they were in another teacher's class, the learning was still with them, and it had a significant impact. That second year showed as much as 34 additional days of learning for these children. In terms of the results for teachers, next slide, please. The next slide, please. In answering the question about impact for teacher PD, the study confirmed that the Wolf Trap model provided excellent training for teachers by demonstrating and integrating 6 measurable features of high-quality professional development. Next slide, please. The results for the teachers are especially impressive because we see that the teachers were assessed both before the research program and after the program, the Wolf Trap program. And we found that the teachers were using the program even after the Wolf Trap Teaching Artist residency was completed. So next slide. At this point, I want to talk about some resources. Now, we have a Wolf Trap online community of practice, education.wolftrap.org, where teachers may access resources including instructional videos, lesson plans, and much more. In fact, much of the STEM content can be found on this website. So I'm giving you a brief overview. These are slides, obviously, but you can go online at any point on your own, education.wolftrap.org, and you can get involved in that online process immediately. It is a log on, so it does require that you do register on the account for yourself. However, it is free and it's very easy to sign up. You can, in fact, still visit the website, education.wolftrap.org, scroll down to the bottom and see some examples of the type of resources that are on the log site. So in giving you the tour, however, once you've completed the login, there are multiple ways for you to access the resources. You can see that there's a feature to place on the first opening page, and there you'll see a lot of the sources that our team has selected for viewers to see what's happening, some of our latest resources that are available for people to access. Or you can go to a section called the Popular section, and that gives you the lineup of what many others have started to look at on our website on their own, and that changes pretty regularly with how people are visiting the website. Go to the next slide, please. You can also go to resources. And in resources, you can see various types of resources. You have opportunities to look specifically under audio clips, lesson plans, video examples, as well as documents. And when you go into any of those, you can scroll down and see the multiple examples of resources that are available for you. For example, if you clicked on lesson plans, you can see the total variety of lesson plans that are across multiple disciplines. You can also go back to the top where it says disciplines, and you can go very discipline specific in your search. For example, you can look under dance or music or math, engineering, literacy, and you can see all of the resources that are available for you to access in that area as well. This is, again, organizing all of the resources in a different way specific to the discipline that you're looking for. Another way that you can also research is by putting in a keyword. Right under where it says keyword, you can put in keywords and multiple keywords. You can put in music and video, or you can say music and dance and math. You can put in multiple keywords or one single keyword, and you will see a listing of all the resources that are available to you. So you know that our intention here is to make these resources available in a way that's really quick and easy to access. And I want to emphasize again that you as a teacher or educator or anyone who wants to visit the website can have access to these tools and resources immediately, even if you have not yet participated in a Wolf Trap residency program. So those are the resources that we have for you, and we hope that you get a chance to visit the website. We hope that you agree that the arts are a powerful teaching tool to engage young children in STEM learning specifically. Learning STEM through artful experiences allows children to be innovators and problem solvers. Children are able to learn STEM skills in context by doing, by feeling, by touching, by seeing, by experiencing, by being creative, and they're using all of their senses when they are in these creative environments, and then they have ownership of that whole process because it's theirs. Learning STEM through the arts can lead to children's school readiness and academic success. So thank you so much. Next slide. You can see how you can contact us. You can go on the website. You can give us a call, send us an email, and we'd be happy to answer any questions at the point that we're ready to take questions. Thank you so much.
Hi, everybody. This is Cindy Hoisington. Regina, thanks so much for that introduction. Just to clean up your language a little bit, as in your words, I'm actually located, Education Development Center is actually located in Waltham, Mass. The project that I'm going to talk about is based in Hartford, Connecticut. I'm working with preschool, kindergarten, and first grade teachers. Akua, I really enjoyed your presentation, and I saw a lot of intersections between what you talked about and what I'd like to spend a few minutes talking about, particularly around the 4 C's, the critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and creativity, the importance of maintaining and nurturing children's curiosity, and the idea that teachers really are the key in schools, although I'm also going to talk somewhat about families and the role they play at home around children's learning. I'm going to try to go through these slides. Rob, you can go ahead and push through there. I'm going to try to go through these initial slides kind of quickly, but I do want to say a word about Education Development Center. It's an organization, a not-for-profit in Waltham, based in Waltham, Mass, that's focused on improving education, health, and economic opportunity domestically and internationally, and includes projects that address these issues across the lifespan. We have offices and people all over the country, and I believe about 63% of our work now is actually international. Back in 1958, when EDC was launched, both early childhood education and science were national priorities, and so they became, they originated as real priorities at EDC as well and continue to be so. The project I'm going to talk about today is Literacy and Academic Success for English Learners Through Science. We call it LASERS. And I put up this slide just to show that it does have, it builds on a long stream of work here going back to the early 2000s when the Young Scientist series was published, Building Structures, Exploring Water, and Discovering Nature with Young Children. What's different about LASERS is that we've shifted our lens a little bit, although we always realized the integration and importance of science and language. We've really focused in on that relationship, and with particular attention to English language learners, although we believe that all children benefit from the same types of enriched science and language experiences. Go on ahead, Rob. Some of the assumptions that it's important to note that are foundational to our project work are the ideas that bilingualism is an asset, and I'm not going to read all of them, but that's a particularly important one, since often in schools what we find is that learning 2 or 3 languages sequentially or simultaneously is often looked at through a deficit lens. The research really shows the benefits of bilingualism across the domains of not only language, but cognition, social, emotional development. And so, although it can be hard for children who are learning English as a second language in schools, it really is a benefit for them to become bilingual. I'm going to focus on the last one and talk about connected experiences across home, school, and community settings. And Akua, you talked a little bit about that as well, the connected experiences and based on the brain research, and how having, related experiences and being able to make connections between them in different settings and across time, and how important that is for brain development. Whoops. You can go on ahead, Rob. So there are 4 key components of lasers, primarily professional development for teachers and school-based coaches in Hartford Public Schools. We're working with 10 different schools. There's the classroom implementation component. So there are sessions over time, 4 full-day sessions, and in between those sessions, teachers go back and implement science explorations with their children. And the important thing is that they collect documentation, which they then bring back to sessions to reflect on with their colleagues. There's a family engagement component that involves activities that get ideas for home activities and conversations that get sent home, school-based family events, and finally, there's a community component. We're working in partnership with the Connecticut Science Center in Hartford. Again, just to reiterate, the teachers really are the key to this. So they are the people who are working as teachers with children in classrooms, also building the relationships with families and having the interactions with families around the science and language learning, and also keeping families informed about resources in the community. So I have to really give the credit to the teachers for being kind of the linchpins in all of this work. Go on ahead, Rob. So why talk? And one of the things that we've known for a long time is that language and cognitive development, conceptual development are very closely related and mutually reinforcing. So being able to talk about your experiences, your observations, and your ideas actually spurs deeper thinking about them. And having enriching experiences and interesting things to think about also provides a motivation for talking and using language. Go on ahead, Rob. I think you. And we know that language is fundamental to building later literacy skills. There's no question about that, and certainly we think about writing as a type of language. And I want to add as well that although this particular project is really focused on building language, that in order to do that, we think about communication writ large. So we think about, all of the different ways that children express themselves and that teachers can introduce and promote in order to support children's language. Go on ahead, Rob, I think. And we know that, extended conversations in pre-K support oral language development and literacy development well past kindergarten and into the upper grades. Go on ahead. Sorry, Rob. So, the bottom line is that we know children need to talk. But too bad, very often, particularly we see it in elementary classrooms, there's just not enough time for talk. The day is very rigidly structured into time for literacy, a lot of literacy blocks, reading times, and so we're trying to, through this integration of science and language, trying to work with teachers to kind of integrate those two subject matter areas and enrich both in the process. Okay, Rob. So science, so then the question is why science? We know why talk, why science, and science has the potential to boost what we know are the major influences on children's language development. It can boost the quantity of talk in the classroom. In other words, there's lots to talk about and lots of opportunities to talk. It can increase the quality of the talk, so it becomes more what you want to call accountable talk, so where children are talking about a shared phenomenon, and in which they're, describing their observations, they're asking each other questions, they're generating explanations or conclusions about what they notice happening, and, discussing the procedures that they're going through or how they're going about finding things out. So it really kind of raises the quality of the talk. And, having topics that can be explored in different settings really pushes for those connections again between homeschool and community. And we find, thinking about curiosity and motivation, science is very motivating because children, when they're excited about topics, when topics are on interest and excite them, they want to share their discoveries. They want to talk about what they're noticing, and they want to share their ideas and thinking, which is really the direction we're moving in with young children. Go on ahead, Rob. So in terms of thinking about English language learners, again, working with teachers and parents, and again, this can be harder in schools, but the idea of supporting, the importance of supporting home language, because home language acts as a launching pad for supporting English language knowledge and skills. Children can know a lot, but know it in their home language. And so being able to, draw out that knowledge as well so that it can then be transferred to English. If they already know a concept in their home language, it's easy to transfer it to English. On the other hand, when they're learning new concepts as well as new language, it can be very challenging. So making connections to, for example, cognates in the home language, there are tons of cognates in Spanish, especially when it comes to science, that can really support children to make that transition. Go on ahead, Rob. So I'm wondering, what do you think about time? Do you think there's time to show that video, or should I just keep plowing along? I'm asking Rob and Regina.
Yeah, I think maybe we'll just play it as the outro. So once we close up and we check for any questions.
Okay. Yeah. So this table is just meant to show kind of the sequence of the formatting of the project. So we started in pre-K in 2015 to 2016. So we had 2 modules, one in the fall, one in the spring, each consisting of 4 full-day sessions, and we did the same in kindergarten last year, and we're currently working in first grade, again with teachers and coaches in 19 classrooms in 10 schools in Hartford, Connecticut. All of the topics, or rather, all of the topics are connected to key ideas in science that align with the standards of the next generation science standards. Clearly, we have a little bit more leeway, a little bit more flexibility in pre-K, because with pre-K children, we want to expose them to all kinds of topics and all kinds of ideas. And we chose physical science for the module in the fall of exploring water, and then life science in the spring, exploring plants and animals. And most of the examples you'll see in upcoming slides or photos are taken from one of those 2 modules. Okay. The primary framework that we used with teachers, again, and this is to support science inquiry, but also to support language and talk in the classroom, and a model for thinking about how we presented and designed and presented our family materials as well, is this inquiry diagram. It was originally created by Karen Worth and Hubert Diassi. And it's meant to show, the purpose really of that diagram is to show the dynamic and spiraling and active nature of science, in contrast to the scientific method, which many of us grew up with as children, which is not to diss the scientific method by any means, but it's not the way most science is done, and it's certainly not the way children learn science or do science. And the other reason we use this diagram is to really show how at every stage of inquiry, throughout that entire diagram, you can see opportunities for language and for talk, both in the classroom and at home, although certainly we don't use this diagram with families necessarily. The third thing that we emphasize about this diagram, or that we use it to emphasize, very often I still find that a lot of teaching is based on telling kids stuff, For some reason that we have understand at the early childhood levels the importance of building on children's interest in language and literacy, on the idea of language and literacy skills developing over time and across many experiences, this idea of emergence. But somehow when it comes to science, we have this either or. Either kids know a concept or they don't. And so in helping people develop that, there really is a continuum along science learning, and that children are able to use some of these higher level thinking and reasoning skills. They're able to not only make observations and record the data, but they're able to talk about the data and make meaning from it, reflect on it collaboratively, and come up with ideas to explain what it means. And so we really want to put children's thinking at the forefront. Okay, Rob. I'm not going to talk about the practices. Those we introduced to kindergarten and first grade teachers. They're part of the next generation science standards, but they directly overlay on the inquiry cycle. So, but we're going to move on ahead. Another piece that's increasingly critically important and that we want to think about when we're teaching science with young children is this idea of non-cognitive skills, and particularly for females, little girls, particularly for Latinx children, particularly for African American children. We want to, children from groups that tend to lose an interest over science, not pursue science at the upper levels, and certainly not pursue science careers. This idea of embedding opportunities for children to feel self-confident and capable of doing and learning science. And we find that high-quality, authentic experiences that are based around children, around interesting topics that are interesting to children, go a long way toward doing that. Okay, Rob, move on. So now a kind of a concrete look at the PD and some of the other components of the project. We spend a lot of time in the professional development, and these examples are actually from the kindergarten year when we explored balls and ramps with the concepts, the integral concepts being around properties of materials and forces in motion. We spend lots of time having teachers engage in their own inquiry-based explorations and their own collaborative science talks. So that, because often as adults, these are not the kinds of experiences that adults actually had themselves when they were in school. And so we have them analyze their own inquiry, looking at the inquiry cycle diagram. What kind of skills did they use? What kind of thinking did they use? How did collaborating really push their thinking? How did lots of opportunities to talk with their colleagues about what they were noticing and what they were thinking about really promote their thinking in relation to the concepts? And so, we see it very much as a parallel process to what we want to see happen in classrooms. So as instructors, we try to facilitate and model, promote the inquiry-based experiences linked to concepts with teachers in the way that's similar to how we like to see them facilitate them with children. They also, during the sessions, we spend a lot of time. We have a family engagement specialist who is actually housed down in Hartford, who works for part of each session around helping teachers begin, reach out to families, build relationships with families. And of course, they already have relationships to one degree or another, but helping them build to make them stronger and to link them to learning through these science experiences. Okay, Rob. This is an example of some of the science at-home activities that, teachers share with families. They're all in English and Spanish. Of course, there's many other languages in the Hartford Public Schools, but we went with the primary home language. It was Spanish, and that was what we were able to do. You can see these were from the pre-K Exploring Water year. We've since begun to develop ones that are a little bit less texty because we got feedback from parents about that. But what they mainly do is they give parents a little information about how these experiences benefit kids. They give them some suggestions for conversations, starters they might use to have talks with their kids. They encourage families to use their home language when they have, or the language they're strongest in when they have these conversations with their kids. And they invite parents to share these experiences through the child back at school, so that we're really pushing for a two-way communication and two-way interactions between the home and the school, not just the teacher pushing information out to the home. Okay, Rob, you can continue on. And you can see that there's also conversations and experiences around books as well. These are other examples where children are and parents are invited to walk in the neighborhood and look at structures together. This was from the kindergarten year. and then to build structures with common items around the house, empty boxes, empty tubes, and then draw pictures of the structures they built, and again share them back at school so children could share them with their fellow students and their teachers. Okay, Rob, I'm almost winding up here, I think. Family events, we asked teachers, and very much our family engagement specialists provided lots of support for teachers to plan or I should talk in the present tense because this is going on in first grade right now, to plan family events at the school during each module. This is an example of a family event from the water module in pre-K, and again the idea to get families and teachers together so they can exchange information about supporting the children's science and language learning at home and school, continue to build relationships centered around children, engage in inquiry together so that parents had, an opportunity which many of us as parents don't have in our day-to-day lives of spending dedicated time exploring and talking with their children and supported by teachers. Okay, Rob. You all know, go on, Rob. These were kind of supports that we provided to help with the family events. Here are some photographs. I love these. And whenever I see adults and children working together, playing together, enjoying science and exploration together, these were from a family science event during the structures unit in pre-K. And you can see all kinds of different explorations and conversations going on. And finally, we have kind of a capstone event at the end of the year in which parents and teachers are invited to come with children to the Connecticut Science Center. And we set up some explorations for children and parents to engage in, but also obviously they have access to the entire Science Center, and then whoever comes to that day is actually offered an annual membership to the Science Center. So again, trying to extend those explorations between family members and those conversations out into the community. I'm not going to, I think it's 5 o'clock right now, Rob, so it goes on to talk about some kinds of frameworks and strategies that we use to support teachers, but that are also embedded in all of our materials. And this is a structure for planning that teachers can use to really remind them that those conversations before, during, and after science experiences, those conversations are critically important in connecting children's experiences from one day to the next. You can go on. I think we're coming toward the end now. And we also have talk tips. Again, we talk more formally with teachers about these, but they are also embedded in the family materials as well. This idea that when we ask children questions, they really need to be questions that are interesting to children and that are responsive to what children are actually doing and noticing and thinking about, and not so much of the time what we always ask children questions to check whether they know something or not. Do they know the right answer or not? And one of the things that always strikes me, as long as I have been doing this work, is the respect at the heart of these conversations. Teachers who are having these types of conversations are really interested in what children are doing and noticing what children's ideas are. They don't see them as cute or funny, but they think about, where did you get that idea, or what's your evidence for that idea? And they use questions in a very intentional manner to promote children's inquiry and thinking and talk simultaneously. That might be actually a nice place to show the video, because that's the teacher who's in the video. We have some additional strategies there on that last slide, but I'd be more excited if we could show a minute and 45-second video of that teacher in a conversation with two children about worms.
Okay, I will get that started, and I'll just offer, it is a little bit after 5, so...
Yeah, no, that's fine. Whatever you think is fine, Rob.
If anybody has any questions, drop those in really quickly, and otherwise I'm going to start that. Up, but we'll pause the video if you have something you want to ask.
Oh, it's cold.
want to hold your hand out like this. Let me see them. They look like they're moving and like seeing each other. I'll hold them with you. It's okay. You'll see how tall they are, but I want to see them. He's wiggling off my hand. I want to see them. I'm not even wearing it. It looks like bigger than me. You think that one is bigger? Yeah. When they look at with theirs, it looks like a 7. It looks like the number 7. This is my favorite animal. Because this is my favorite animal. That's your favorite animal? Yeah. I got it. It'll bite me. What else? That on the glass.
And we actually do have a question coming in. Flora asks about one of the resources that you talked about, Akua. I'm going to try to pull it up here, but it's whoops, I need to unmute you, don't I? Sorry. There we go. So, Akua, Flora asks about, the Art Center for Teachers. The Design-Based Learning Art Center's Summer Institute for Teachers is a 5-day intensive program. She sent me the link. Could you tell us just give us a basic overview of that Summer Institute?
So she may be referring to when we've had summer institutes related to the STEM program and other types of customized institutes that we may form with any of our education partners. Sometimes they're here at Wolf Trap. Other times they may be with school districts that ask us to develop customized training for them. So they can go anywhere from 1 day to 5 days. And so if she'd like to know more about them, we certainly can. She can call us and we can give her more information about how she might have access to such an institute if it's happening in her school district, or she'd like to inquire about having one in her school district.
Great, thank you. Well, and Cindy, I love that video. It's just it's so fun to see the kids experimenting and talking with each other, and I can hear the teacher doing those kind of guiding questions that you mentioned. Really good.
Full video.
Okay, well, we are at the end of the hour. I'll, if one of my colleagues want to jump over me and close with anything in particular, they're free to do that, Wes and Regina. But I will just remind everybody that this will be recorded and posted on the STEMX website if you want to share with some other folks, and we'll be in touch pretty quickly here about February's webinar.
Bob, I was just wondering if people had questions we couldn't get to today. Are they cataloged someplace? Or should they email you or me or Wes?
Yeah, they should just email stemx@battelle.org, and we'll pass that along and get it to the presenters and then back out to the group. That's
okay.
Great.
All right. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Cindy and Akua and everybody at Wolf Trap. I miss you guys. Haven't seen you in a while.
Thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you.
Bye, Akua.
All right. Bye-bye, Cindy. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks all.